Are audiobooks reading? Well, that's the question I'm here to kind of talk about. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and today guys, we are going to be discussing, are audiobooks reading, and do I read as much as I actually say I do? But before we get into that, please do me a favor, like this video and subscribe to the channel, as it does help the channel grow. And you can check the description box down below for links to all my social media, including the Discord, where we've got a great bookish community, and the book club / Patreon, which you can join for as little as $1 a month. With that out of the way, essentially I aim to read about 80 to 100 books this year. And I would say a good 60% of that is going to be audiobook, which was initially introduced as an aid for those with visual impairments to still be able to consume and enjoy stories that otherwise would not be available to them. And so audiobooks have kind of evolved and grown. It's a growing, it's a thriving industry. And yet you constantly get people who say audiobooks are not reading. And trust me, I know I get one about every 2 weeks who tells me I didn't actually read the story because I had it read to me. Which, granted, yes, there is a little bit of a performance that can either elevate or a bad performance can hinder good stories. I agree with that point there. But if I'm still getting the same text for text story, have I read the book? Have I consumed the story? If I'm not reading it with my eyes, like on a physical book or an ebook, have I just not read the book? Like, let me know in the comments down below. I know I'm inviting trolls to give their opinion, but hey, that's what the comments section is for. So I would love to have a good discourse with people in that section. Let's just keep it civil is my main ask. But frankly, like, I enjoy a good audiobook, and as I kind of progress throughout this YouTube kind of journey and being a booktuber and a content creator and reading more and more books, I read less physical media, and I've been moving more towards the digital space. This includes ebooks and audiobooks. And I have favorite narrators, I have favorite writers, and I kind of, sometimes I will mix the two. Like recently I mixed Andrew Rowe and Nick Podell. Andrew Rowe writes Arcane Extension, Nick Podell narrates it, and sometimes my brain just swaps the two. And that can be a real risk with being an audiobook listener, but I still consider myself to having consumed and or read the story. Now, you can argue that consuming the story is not the same thing as reading it. There are conflicting definitions online. I did try and go, but like, hey, Merriam-Webster, what's the definition of reading? And then like Google just populated like 10 links of just like, oh, it is the decoding of symbols to gather information, which can my ears not decode symbols and or speech to then provide me with the information, the same as my eyes might decode and give me the story as I am reading it. And I would say they are two different skills. I know people who read books but can't listen to audiobooks, and I know people who listen to audiobooks but don't quite enjoy reading books. And I mentioned earlier about visual impairment. There's also those people who have dyslexia, where audiobooks are very, very helpful in consuming stories. So there's that argument as well. I do have a visual impairment. You know, without my glasses, I can only see about that far in front of my face. Now, I do have glasses, so that excuse doesn't quite hold a whole lot of water, but it's just, there are a lot of people who do have visual impairments and processing issues where audiobooks are a great way to consume stories. And again, I want to hear from you in the comment section down below. Is it just consuming stories? Does it matter how you get the story? Do I have to read it with my eyes? Because if I do have to read it with my eyes, according to the audience, I don't read as much as I, typically say I do, because I read physically about, 3 to 4 books physically every month, and then the rest are audio. So I would say a good 50% to 60% of my consumption of stories is via audiobooks. And this just raises an interesting thing, because has BookTube ruined my reading has been kind of a topic that's been going around here on the interwebs here lately. And it's something that I find really, really interesting, because as a content creator, yes, I don't entirely read for joy anymore. So in that aspect, my reading has been ruined. But I also still enjoy what I read, even though it's kind of turned into a little bit of work. But again, a lot of the joy I get from that is because audiobooks, like I said earlier, can just elevate a reading experience. It can turn something that is good into something that is really good. And it can turn something that is bad into something that is okay. And on the flip side, it can turn something that's really good into something that was just good. So I don't know. I'm conflicted here because if we go by the physical definition that Merriam-Webster has, it can be leaning more towards you have to use your eyes. But again, things have evolved. The industry and the space has evolved. And I think using the eyes as counting as reading may not be fully accurate anymore, because I think last I heard, audiobooks was a booming industry. Like every year we are seeing increases in this space in the billions, in the millions and billions. I think it was like a $3 billion industry. I could be completely wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments down below. Just last year. And that's a lot of money for something that isn't technically reading. And for me, I think it does count as reading. For me, I consider audiobooks to be reading. I'm not going to say fight me in the comments down below, because everybody has their opinion. And if we go by the definition of reading, then audiobooks technically don't count as reading. But for me, I don't really care, because I think I'm going to shift from saying I've read that to saying I've consumed it, which kind of makes it sound like I'm saying I've ate the book, which, listen, I don't have a high fiber diet, but I'm not going to start eating the pages out of my books because, well, that seems excessive. But at the same time, I don't know of a better term, of another word that I can accurately use to describe how I am getting my stories, because I'm getting the same story that the people who are physically reading it are. It's just being read to me by somebody else while I do other tasks. AKA, I like multitasking. And that is something that audiobooks allow you to do. It's very hard to multitask while physically reading a book. But if I am, say, working my day job and just sitting here typing at my computer and doing mindless data entry, I can have these read a story to me, and I can enjoy my work just a little bit more because I'm doing something that may be mindless. And I'm still catching up on my TBR, which I think has a lot of value. I think audiobooks add way more value to a reader's life than they detract. Now, again, getting into audiobooks can be a bit of a skill. I know people who just struggle to do it. And a lot of people will say, hey, you just got to find the right one. And they'll throw out Travis Baldree, Nick Podell, Jeff Hayes. Really big names are like people who are really good at delivering solid performances. But at the same time, the way I got into it was Doctor Who audio dramas, which is just 1 to 2 hour adventures set in classic Doctor Who from Big Finish Productions. And I would just sit there because I'm such a Doctor Who fan. You can see my TARDIS right here, and then you can see my K9 right here, and behind me I've got some huge Doctor Who fan. Not the point of this video, but I would sit there and I'd listen to these productions, and I was able to follow along and kind of sink into the story. And from there, I transitioned from those adventures to just typical Jeff Hayes, Michael Gallagher, Fleet Champions, Titan Hoppers, great audiobook, great story. And I feel like when you've got a good narrator and you've got a good story, you're in for an even more elevated experience, leading to me as a content creator to gush about story. But again, I do want to get your opinion in the comment section down below, because there is a lot to talk about in this space on whether or not consuming audiobooks is the same thing as reading a story. And again, my stance is yes it is, but I want to hear your stance. That's all I've really got for today, guys. This is more of a talking head rambling video sort of idea. So I hope you were doing well. Till next time, peace out, stay magical, bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. Thank you for supporting my passion and my hobby. It means the world to me.